You get 25% weapon damage when you damage an enemy with a grenade with the Bloody Knuckles. You get 40% more damage to armor. You know, shotguns already have damage to armor as an attribute. Negative 30% movement speed on a target that you throw a grenade at for 10 seconds. If you're using the busy little bee and you get your stacks up to 10, even 5, let's say 5 with 100%, you get 5 stacks, that's 100% weapon damage. You toss a grenade while you have the busy little bee in hand. Then, once you damage them with the grenade, you switch to the lefty. You get the Bloody Knuckles and Lefty bonus at the same time. This junk is insane.
Wait, fam. Hold up. Did you just see that? For those of you who aren't believers in the busy little bee or the Bloody Knuckles exotics, I will make you one because you're sadly mistaken. Rarely do I witness one piece of gear or a weapon turn a useless talent into a top candidate for the meta spot. This build setup is probably one of the most versatile you have seen in a long time, and I was actually at a loss for words while using it. I theory crafted this build before even putting it together, but once I finally made it, everything came together. Like these pieces were just destined to be a part of one another. I was about to release a different build today, but I would have been doing you a disservice had I done so before showing you this beast. The purpose of this build is to become the ultimate DPS machine, carrying the versatility of being allowed to use the busy little bee without feeling like it's a tool to get weapon damage for other weapons only. With the way I've set this up, you can choose to utilize all 3 weapons, each with their own perspective flavor of deadly execution. Real quick, if you're hype about what I'm about to show you, then drop a like. Also subscribe to stay up to date with all my content. Now, I want you to keep something in mind before I show you this build, and this is merely an attempt to prepare you for what you're about to see. For one, a talent that was almost never used before this patch, after this video will undoubtedly be one of the most used once you see the synergy. 2, every single weapon is a viable option to use. 3, both brand new exotics, the Busy Bee and Bloody Knuckles, are in this one build and they work together like a charm. And 4, you know what? Skip that. Let me just show you what I got. Alright fam, I'm so glad this worked out the way I envisioned it. The perfect setup, and I don't see how I could have made it better. But there are, however, a couple of other ways to do this that allow for more weapon damage type options. Like for example, if you have an assault rifle equipped instead of an SMG, just swap one brand piece out for another. But that's really the only thing, because this build is very specific. Every piece serves its purpose for the other to do its thing. It was actually while running through the mission I didn't even realize I wasn't taking full advantage of all this build had to offer. Even with that, I was destroying everything in sight, and I think the reason is because I was having so much fun playing it that I forgot all the accolades it had. But let me stop rambling away. I'll show you what this is all about. Let's begin with the talent I was talking about that has overnight turned into a potential meta candidate. And you know that this Vector SBR has been my favorite variant from the beginning. The fire rate and damage are next to none, but now it's transcended to a level even greater. I'm using the talent called Unwavering. Have you heard of it? There's a perfect version of it called Swap Chain. The SMG variant is an MP7 and used to be the meta SMG in Div 1 with brutal, deadly, and responsive. Y'all remember that, right? But not anymore. It's no match for the Vector SBR in Div 2. So I just rolled the Unwavering talent on the one I already have. But here's why it's so good now. The talent states that swapping to this weapon grants 300% weapon handling for 5 seconds. That may not seem like a lot, but hear me out. Kills refresh this buff. Swapping away disables this buff from all weapons for 5 seconds. Now this talent was never enough for me to use by itself. 300% weapon handling needed something else to push it over the top. You know, that little nudge, just a little bit. Well, how about 200% weapon damage? Is that good enough? And with that weapon damage added to the weapon handling, almost always guarantees any enemy will be melted with one clip, no matter how short the Vector SBR's magazine is, which means that the buff refreshes and starts a chain of the buff. You see how fast the reload is? It's instantaneous. And this brings me to the other weapon I'm using, which allows for that 200% weapon damage. The Busy Little Bee. The new exotic pistol that everyone was saying will go in their stash once they get it. I said it before, I will make you a believer. This exotic talent marks enemies you shoot so long as you're shooting a different target every time. Each mark grants 20% weapon damage, and you can get up to 10, which means that if you mark all of them, that's 200%. extra weapon damage on top of what you already deal once swapping to another weapon. I'm sure you see where I'm going here and why it makes unwavering godly now. I mean, even if you get 5 stacks, that's 100% damage. So you don't need to always gain the maximum amount. And because I made this build in a way that allows for the busy little bee to be powerful on its own while using the pistol, you'll have a blast doing it and never feel the pressure of switching weapons. But there are a few reasons for this. Firstly, this exotic pistol is only the second one I've seen that has damage to targets out of cover as an attribute. That's rare on an exotic. The other one I've seen is on Ravenous, but with damage to targets out of cover alone is already helping with the amount that it deals. Plus, I'm using a name mask known as Punch Drunk, 20% pistol damage and 20% headshot damage for its name attribute. But this build is based on crit hit chance and damage, so that's what you gotta roll in every piece for the attribute. I'll show you the stats at the end, and boy are they impressive. Now, I've already established that you can use all of these weapons independently, but once you swap between them, the dynamics change, which is why I have for the chest piece a 𝐬𝐴 with Gunslinger, where weapon swapping increases total weapon damage by 20% for 5 seconds. This buff is lost for 5 seconds when you swap while it's active. Pretty similar to swap chain, right? Almost the same. So no matter what, when you swap weapons, you'll always gain at least 20% damage. And that's the thing. As I said before, you don't need to get all the stacks with busy little bee. Just 1 or 2. And once you switch, that's about 60% weapon damage you gain. I'm sorry to interrupt, but YouTube notifications are terrible, so I had to take matters into my own hands and let you know what I got going on. I came here from my second channel, Identity Games, and would love it if you could support me there as well. A total different vibe you'll get, and the best thing is that you don't even have to leave this video. Just click this link and subscribe, but make sure that afterwards you come see me over there. Identity Games is a game dev channel where I'm developing my own project, an open world RPG looter shooter. Check it out and let me know what you think of it. And this isn't one of those builds that make you feel like you're doing too much to get that damage bonus. You know, where it's not worth doing all that just to get a damage bonus. On the contrary, it feels natural because everything is strong here. I see why they reference this weapon to a bee. It may only be a pistol, but once it hits the enemy, that shot stings. And I forgot to mention that for the exotic attachment scope on the busy little bee, it has a 25% optimal range for a pistol. That's really crazy. Okay, moving on. This Group O holster is for the 15% crit damage, and I always have this bonus alongside the 𝐬𝐴's 10% crit chance. Now here's where the Bloody Knuckles exotic gloves come into play. They go hand in hand with the new name Lefty shotgun, which is why I waited until now to talk about it. And I know that naturally you'd want to use the Bloody Knuckles with Lady Death, right? To utilize this 500% melee damage, then Bloody Knuckles 100% on top of that. There's also a named holster, Wyvern, that you can use that adds another 500% melee damage. Well, in the PTS I tested this and it was very underwhelming. Some of the enemies staggered, some of them didn't. In some cases it almost got me killed. It's just not worth it. Because first of all, melee in general in this game is not a viable solution. In PvP or PvE, it'll most likely get you killed. And the Lady Death bonk build doesn't make it any better. So I decided to go a separate route where it makes the melee relevant to the weapon damage it deals, meaning that the melee is used not as a main source of damage, but something that can provide a segue to another source of damage while benefiting from all that the glove's exotic talent have to offer. Because if you didn't know, the talent not only grants extra melee damage, it also grants 25% weapon damage after you land a melee. So you can do the melee, but only the proc the bonus. This is also what it does. When you toss a grenade and it damages the enemy, it procs it as well. Which is why I'm using the Lefty shotgun with perfect sledgehammer. This talent states that damaging enemies with a grenade causes you to deal 40% more armor damage, adding on to the exclusive damage to armor attribute on shotguns in general. Furthermore, this decreases the movement speed of enemies by 30%. Wow. What a talent if used correctly. And I believe that this is one build where it definitely is. I'm not even done yet, fam. And I think this is too much. I mean, I've never done this much on a build before. Because the backpack I'm using is versatile. This is similar to Gunslinger, but requires certain weapon combinations to yield a specific damage result. It's why I have the SMG and the shotgun equipped, because switching between them grants a whopping 35% weapon damage, adding to the 20 from Gunslinger. And this only applies if you swap between either the shotgun or the SMG. So you decide which style you'd like to play. They're all fun and effective. The final gear piece I have are the Fox's Prayer knee pads. The damage to targets out of cover complements that of the busy little bee, almost 20% total. And I just want to say something about the melee. Don't be afraid to do it, even though it's dangerous. This build is formidable enough to sustain enough damage to serve its purpose. My armor is at 1.3 mil, and even if my armor is broken in PvE, anyone in range catches fire since I'm using firewall specialization, which gives me an opportunity to instantly destroy them. Finally, we've reached the end, and for the skills, because this is a DPS build, all you need are those that'll help you do just that. I use the EMP sticky bomb to offset enemies, a favorite of mine, and secondly, the firewall crusader shield. This grants extra damage to those in front of the shield as long as they're in range. And you could use the decoy if you want to. I mean, this is totally up to you. I usually go with the decoy, but I think since I'm using firewall, it's fitting to use a shield. Did you make it to the end? If so, you're a beast, and if you see this, then comment bloody hands down below. This is to express your excitement because I know you are. Now let me show you the stats. And this is really impressive for a pistol, especially if you didn't know. All this crit chance and damage is not supposed to be on a weapon like this. So at the end of the day, even though there are a lot of bugs in this patch and it's had like a rocky start, it has inspired me to really dig deep while in the lab, because a lot of you were saying that the Busy Little Bee and the Bloody Knuckles were bad, that they were going to be in your stash, never to be seen again. Well, I really hope this build will inspire you as it has me. If you want to check out any other builds I've made like this one, feel free to click the link. Or if you'd like to support my solo game development journey, you can do that too. It's your choice. Other than that, that'll do it for me. Let me know in the comments what you think about this build, and don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll catch you in the next one. Be right out.